There are many questions left to be answered still with this whole saga with the Bloodline, The Rock, Roman Reigns, everything leading into WrestleMania 40 and after WrestleMania 40. We've talked about it here on the channel before. All the little bitty hints that have been dropped with The Rock and Roman Reigns over the past several weeks since The Rock officially joined the Bloodline, and everything that's happened since the fallout of the WrestleMania 40 kickoff event in Las Vegas. But we're starting to realize that I think many questions have already been answered. And one question in particular has definitely been answered at this point, and that is, are there trust issues between The Rock, Roman Reigns, and the Bloodline, which includes the wise man himself, Paul Heyman? The answer is an emphatic yes. And we got another, I think, display of that on this week's edition of SmackDown, which was there to set up the match that we've all known has been coming, and that is the tag team match between The Rock and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, which will happen at WrestleMania 40 with the stakes on the line, potential bloodline rules in the Cody versus Roman Reigns main event on night 2. But what else did we see here on this segment? As always, a very lengthy segment, but what else did we learn from this? Well, we learned that the trend continues with The Rock because he just did it again to the Bloodline. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let's look into this. So let me take you back, three weeks ago now, something like that. I don't remember the first time The Rock was on. It's been several weeks, right? So the first time around, The Rock joins the Bloodline. That's when we make it official, everything. And again, we did kind of point out some of the little clues that were seemingly hinted at during that initial sort of Rock joining the Bloodline thing, the promo he cut on Cody, saying specific words while looking at Roman Reigns, all of those other things. The things that just, the tiny little details that WWE has been planting into all of these promos involving The Rock and the Bloodline to this point. So as you see here, you've got The Rock standing here, kind of this corner of the ring. You've got the Bloodline over here, but that's, just you're looking at it now, right? What stands out? You've got The Rock over here. You've got the Bloodline there. Okay? So now let's go back a couple weeks ago to the other situation where, you've got The Rock coming back. This is the Glendale promo where he's talking about all the stuff there and cracking his jokes and everything and all of that. So you get The Rock. He's cutting his promo again, right? And you've got, once again, as you see, kind of the visual here. And look, I'm just giving you still shots. I could give you a lot more to kind of go into this. But the story here is that The Rock is over here. Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman. It's just the perfect Paul Heyman pose here. We're going to get to one of those in a second that's perfect for Heyman. But The Rock's over here smiling. Roman Reigns is here. Heyman's here. The Bloodline's over on this side again, right? So you've got The Rock kind of on his side. You've got the Bloodline sort of standing off in the corner. All right. Now we get to the infamous thing that has been, kind of dissected more than anything maybe in professional wrestling history. And that is The Rock, holding up the one sign, right? Although, as we see, it's kind of more of an L. And we've talked about that here on the channel. You can check out the previous videos we've done looking at kind of dissecting what that means. But still, the visual here is that, all right, The Rock's a little bit closer to the Bloodline. He's a little bit closer. But you can still tell there's a clear 4 on one side. And there is just still kind of that one person standing off a little bit to himself, right? You guys know where I'm going with this. And many people have already brought it up, but I just want to point out the trend that we now continue to see. Now, let's fast forward to this week's edition of SmackDown. And as the fans are chanting for The Rock, they're doing all this, and as Roman's going to get his acknowledgement from the Dallas crowd, what do we see? It's the same setup here, where The Rock by himself over here on the side, the rest of the Bloodline, all a cohesive unit over here with themselves. Paul Heyman clearly laughing at something. I don't remember what the setup was here, but the bigger picture again is look at the space between The Rock and the rest of the Bloodline. All right, let's take it a little step further. So this is right before Cody Rhodes makes his entrance, before we hear Cody's music. And then you of course had the Shield-like, arrival of Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So even here, and this is, I think, is also a perfect visual because it looks like Roman's just mean-mugging The Rock here. He's really not. He's reacting to Cody's music hitting. But still, you've got the same scenario we just talked about a minute ago when they're holding up the ones, right? The Rock, there is space between him and the Bloodline. There is that visual, obvious disconnect between The Rock and the rest of the Bloodline. Because if not, why wouldn't he just be standing side by side with Roman Reigns? Why wouldn't he be, a bit closer? That's just, again, something that goes along with any kind of like psychological relationship type stuff, right? So The Rock, though, is clearly positioning himself a little bit further away from the Bloodline. So you might say, all right, well, this is just all, I mean, come on, it's The Rock, right? He's going to stand off to the side. He's the star, all this other stuff. That's the point, is that The Rock has had his own entrance every single time. And again, well, it's just The Rock, right? He's a member of the Bloodline now. He's not coming out with the rest of the Bloodline. He's still coming out by himself. He's still kind of standing in his own little world. And to me, that tells you what you need to know about the clear trust issues that are involved here with The Rock and the Bloodline. And so we can add a little bit more to this, because then you get Cody and Seth coming out. And again, you've got them on one side. They've got a little space between them, right? And then you look on the other side. And like, this to me is the perfect visual of this entire thing. Now, The Rock and Roman Reigns would get closer together as The Rock gets a microphone. They start talking. But here, even in this kind of visual, which I think you can maybe not read as much into this one, because you do kind of have the setup where you've got two guys on one side, two guys on the other. Even Seth and Cody had a little bit of space between them, but even this visual right here, right? Look how far The Rock is away from Roman Reigns. Like, he doesn't trust him. And we know that there's even that little inkling now that Roman Reigns doesn't trust The Rock, right? Because if you look back at the entrance that The Rock made last night, the fans are they're chanting for him. They're doing the Rocky, all this other stuff, right? And how did Roman Reigns react to that? Well, here's the first initial kind of reaction you see here. So, and I thought this was beautiful from WWE's standpoint of capturing this image. And you could tell if you watch this segment how they do the camera work here. They specifically zoom in and kind of zoom out to make sure that you get the visual of Roman Reigns during The Rock's entrance and kind of leading into the fans chanting for The Rock. You get Roman Reigns' reaction. And this was just one of kind of seeing him with his little bit of a smile on his face, but they capture The Rock in the background. That is beautiful camera presentation work there. Like, that is tremendous to capture that, because they made sure these are the two guys you see in this visual. It's Roman Reigns, and in the background, it's The Rock enjoying himself, right? He's having fun here. But you see Reigns, a little bit of a smirk on his face, okay? And then, the chants continue for The Rock, right? And then what do you get as Roman Reigns' response? He just wants to be acknowledged, but he can't be acknowledged yet because the fans are still chanting for who? None other than The Rock here. And I think this is another kind of shot here that really captures the whole essence of this entire storyline. Roman's a little bit like, I'm not so sure about this. The Rock continuing to sort of overshadow everything involving Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, other than the one moment that we talked about in a previous video where Roman gets the acknowledgement he wanted from The Rock. He gets to exhale a little bit, and you saw, as we looked at it, that sort of relief on Roman's face when he got that acknowledgement from The Rock. But the fans continue to make this about The Rock. They continue to make it about him, and even this right here, where The Rock's looking around as the fans are chanting, and Roman is still waiting. He's still waiting. And all that does is create even more of the space. And this is the one where I think you can kind of look at it here. This, to me, is the one that sells the story here. This is, again, a visual where look at the Bloodline. Look at Paul Heyman. Like, you can even see Heyman, who's, giving the look here as the fans, again, they're chanting. And if you zoom in and you see it, and you go back and watch this segment, there's a little bit of that smile on The Rock's face because the fans are all in, right? They're chanting for The Rock. I'm sure some are chanting, heel-like stuff for The Rock, but some are still chanting for The Rock. And you can see Roman's reaction. You can see Jimmy Uso's reaction. He's looking off to the side a little bit, like the way he was. You can see Solo's reaction, all of this. Everyone has a reaction to what is going on here. And I think it's perfect because everyone maybe has different thoughts as to how this thing is going. And Paul Heyman's here is, I think, the best one, where you can see him kind of looking off to the side. And again, I want to just present to you the space that is between The Rock and the rest of the Bloodline, it is a theme now that we have seen week after week after week on SmackDown. And I think he did it again here. And it is, again, these tiny little details. If you want to know why people are so invested in what is happening here with The Rock, Roman Reigns, why this thing is the hottest thing going in WWE, they are doing something that we have not seen WWE do in quite a while in terms of, yes, they've told some good stories. There have been some little things along the way, but it is every single time these guys step into the ring together, we have these little things, whether it's The Rock holding up the ones and then, taking his thumb, bringing it out, bringing it back in. It's stuff like that. And now here you've got just the presentation-based stuff, getting that visual of Roman Reigns' reaction to The Rock and the fans' reaction to The Rock. But it's also the proximity. It's The Rock standing on his own, having his own entrances, continuing to sort of overshadow this entire situation. And as we said, Roman's kind of been the sidebar in all this. The tribal chief, the head of the table, is not going to accept being the sidebar. So now I think we raise more questions as we've seen this trend continue. The clear trust issues have never been more obvious. The Rock does not trust the Bloodline. The Bloodline seemingly doesn't trust The Rock, especially Paul Heyman. And so how do these questions continue to be answered as we move forward? We know we're going to keep getting these guys together leading up to WrestleMania 40, and then we find out if we're going to get the answers. Do we get the official turn from The Rock? Do we get a turn from Roman Reigns on The Rock? How does this whole thing unfold? WWE is just opening more questions. Every time you think you get an answer for one thing, okay, we got the tag team match. You're still opening up a lot of questions, and you're also adding these tiny little, kind of breadcrumbs along the way that are helping people get more and more invested. Are we reading too much into some of this? You bet we are, probably on some of it. But this is what makes it exciting. This is the kind of story-based stuff that I think people have been wanting to see really sink their teeth into in WWE. And now you're getting it with one of the biggest stars of all time, The Rock. You're getting it with a man who has held the championship for years, and how that factors in to the story with Cody Rhodes trying to finish his story at WrestleMania 40. So let me know what you thought about the most recent segment involving The Rock, the Bloodline, Roman Reigns. And yes, we will also have another video talking about what did we learn maybe from The Rock's reaction to the slap from Cody Rhodes. A little bit of payback from Cody on The Rock. Did we learn anything? Did we not? We'll have another video on that coming up. But appreciate you guys watching. As always, hit that subscribe button. Just enjoy talking wrestling. You've seen me do these breakdowns of these Rock segments over the past couple weeks. I know a lot of you have had a lot to say about it, and I always enjoy the feedback. So let me know what you thought about this particular segment and these trust issues that are clearly in play between The Rock and Roman Reigns.